Wonderful. Thank you, Hitomi. And thank you, everyone, for coming out today. So happy to see you, I guess, just in the list, but really glad that we can join in this manner and have this wonderful conference all across the country and the world. So just wonderful. Today, I'm going to be talking a lot, but there will be time at the end for questions and discussion. I'm using for the first time wireless headphones, so my voice sounds funny to myself. So if I become too loud or soft, please don't hesitate to use the chat and just let me know. And likewise, if there's any tech concerns, if you put in the chat, then the wonderful team here can help you to address that. So thank you so much. Today, I am talking about activism through cultural arts. Not yet, Kevin. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Okay, yes. So with the case study of the Model Minority Project, which is my production series that I began in 2017 for stage production, and that's going to be our case study to examine this topic. Thank you, Kevin. Now. Okay, so the highlights to sort of take away or to dwell on or to organize your thoughts on are listed here. And they are activism, meaning social or political activism in community, activism in arts, cultural arts, and what does that mean? Cultural practitioners as artists, and activism in cultural arts. So they all sound kind of similar, and of course they overlap and interweave through my experience with this project and my other work in the community. But this is kind of the focal points that we can come back to. And this is all regarding the community of focus is Asian Canadians, or as I say, AC, in Edmonton. So this is my experience with this community. I assume it will be different across Canada, in other cities across North America. So we'll keep that in mind as well, that this is quite local to ACs in Edmonton. And I do say ACs of Asian Canadian as we go along because we are suffering inflation. We don't need any more syllables than we need to. All right, next one, please. Okay, so just to introduce myself, I'm Carly Okamura, she, her pronouns. I identify as a mixed race Japanese Canadian Yonsei, and Yonsei means a fourth generation Japanese Canadian. My experience as Yonsei does inform my interest in arts and my artistic practice. Sorry, I just realized I was going to put my own notes coming through. There we go. Okay. Pardon me. I just backing up a little bit to the previous slide. You don't have to, Kevin, but just as a bit of a content warning that this talk will discuss racial discrimination and negative stereotypes as part of the discussion. So just to let everybody know in advance. So back to this. So again, I am Carly, and I am also a local Japanese drummer or taiko drummer. And I began that journey in 2002 as a teenager. And that activity is really what brought me closer to our local Japanese Canadian community. Before that, I didn't have a lot of context or contact with Japanese culture. And bringing me into the taiko group brought me to the EJCA, the Edmonton Japanese Community Association, and begun my parallel journey with community volunteerism, community topics, and activism. And starting all that in 2002 when I was 16, that means I've kind of grown on this parallel path of arts and community growing together as I become an adult and form identity. So this really informs my background and my interest in these topics. Currently, I am the president of Kitano Taiko, which is Edmonton's oldest taiko group, actually Alberta's oldest taiko group. And I started that in 2019 after serving on the artistic committee since 2007. I also serve on the board of Taiko Community Alliance, which is an American not-for-profit organization that serves North America and indeed the world of the Taiko community. And some of my friends are here in the audience today, so thank you so much for joining. Through all this Taiko work and my other arts work, my vision is to uplift Canadian Taiko and artists and cultural arts and artistic collaboration. So I think cultural or artistic collaboration is really a wonderful way to communicate and cross bridges of multiculturalism, so that communities who wouldn't normally interact can come together and discover similar or different topics, and just see the wonderful values of multiculturalism be expressed on stage through collaborative artistic pieces. Okay, just move my own notes along. So this is my, oh, not yet. Sorry, Kevin. I was talking to myself. We'll get it down by the end. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, so this is how I identify. While this identity doesn't really affect my day-to-day life in terms of how I feel I'm treated or if I'm discriminated against, I don't believe that I am. But this identity has really informed my artistic practice, as I mentioned, and the things that I'm interested in. When it comes to the multiculturalism value, as I mentioned, this is for those who may be joining us from outside the country. Canadians really value multiculturalism, but I also want to take it a step further and say it's not just uplifting the happy stories. A true embracing of multiculturalism means to explore all the stories and the complexities and how they overlap. So when I say multiculturalism, that's what I mean, as well as just, you know, the happy, where we all get along and share all our culture together. So all of that all together. Great. And please move forward, Kevin. Thank you. So to this end, with these values that I have and my interest in arts, in 2019, I began Rabbits 3 Cultural Connections, which is my business, my production business. And from there, I wish to create innovative and collaborative works in cultural arts. So through this means, I was able to move from, we'll say, like group taiko or Japanese drumming into ensemble taiko, where I can create my own pieces. And I'm still a part of the main taiko group. But as my journey as an artist, part of it was discovering you know, the benefits and constraints of being in a group where there is a mission and vision, and then having my own desires for mission and vision and projects that wouldn't necessarily align, and how can I walk both paths. So since 2019, I am hesitantly confident to say that it's going well, and I am able to do this. So if we have artists in the audience and we wish to discuss this more in depth further on, we certainly can. Under Rabbits 3, I have worked with some local groups on collaborative pieces such as Firefly Theater's Cirque-tastique and at the Skirts of Fire Festival. I also teach recreational taiko on the University of Alberta campus. So being out in the community and sharing the art of taiko is very rewarding. But then there's also this step of collaboration and works that have this level of social activism or political messages through the piece. So having this company has allowed me to do that. And having this company has allowed me to move forward with the Model Minority Project, which is our focus today. Forward, Kevin. Thank you. Okay, so this is my production series. There have been 2 performances since 2017, one in 2017 and one in 2022. And we're going to kind of break them down in terms of the content and what I'm presenting to the community, but also my experience as a new artist and a new business person applying for grants and running these productions as well. So there's those two experiences that I hope will be of interest to this audience. So the Model Minority Project, again, we can go back to 2017. It seems quite long ago now. And at the time, I thought things couldn't get any more divisive or complicated than they already are. And then, you know, time progressed. But if we think back to that time, 2017, times were different. And what we understood about social issues, how we talk about social issues online and, you know, being connected on it, and also how we think about AC or Asian American issues since COVID, that has changed. But back in 2017, I was just thinking, I don't see a representation of AC issues in media, in performance, really anywhere, and it's on my mind. I think about this a lot, topics that affect Asian Canadians. And growing up and with the background that I had, I've always been very inspired by cultural arts. So dance, music, martial arts, and so on. Not just Asian cultural arts, but all. But being in Edmonton, I did tend to run into the AC cultural arts a little bit more. So this project had a few phases when I kind of had the idea I wanted to do it. And as an artist, and if some of you also are, or writers or producers of any kind, you kind of feel when the idea fits, you're like, it's not just I want to do it, it's that I have to do it. I have to do this thing now. So I got into that stage, and I wanted the content of the performance to be informed by community input. So I began with a survey using Google Forms that just asked kind of general questions. And then I tried to share that survey far afield. So I did want it to be Canadian centric, but not Edmonton or Alberta centric. So I did utilize NAJC Young Leaders networks and other similar networks to try to share this survey across Canada. And the results that I got back at that time had a lot to do with stereotypes of ACs. And those stereotypes had a lot to do around dating and relationships. So the first production where we look at stereotypes that face the Asian Canadian community, it was centered around dating and relationships. So I didn't really choose that myself. That's kind of what the answer is structured, but it was very interesting. And in my experience, that is also what I thought about a lot. So that worked. The Model Minority performances utilize multidisciplinary arts, so spoken word, dance, music, martial arts, and so on. I really value having a pan-Asian representation, so not only Japanese Canadians, not only East Asians, trying to really find those communities in Edmonton and make sure that I try to get a broader representation. And the proceeds of the performance would go to a local charity. I also value that as, you know, we're representing the community, and we want to make sure that we can turn the support around. Okay, so the both Model Minority performances, it's already a little bit tongue-in-cheek, right? Model Minority is a stereotype, and it's not something I'm not uplifting the stereotype, it's tongue-in-cheek so that we can break it down. And a value of these performances is that the topics are made approachable, that the audience feels comfortable, but ultimately that the audience does feel moved. They are made aware of the topics being discussed, and perhaps they'll learn something, but the ultimate goal when the audience leaves is that they do feel a connection or a level of education, that they can come away with a positive feeling. And in addition to that, because the topics can be heavy and people share emotional stories, I also take care when I structure the artist lineup and the shape of the production that that we take care of the audience throughout. So we don't just throw all the things at them and weigh them down, that there's uplifting moments, that there's moments of togetherness, and that, again, when they leave, it is a positive feeling. Okay, great. And can we move forward, please? Okay, so this is more on the business or production side. I had very different experiences with the two performances of the model minority. So in 2017, I received a grant from the EJCA for $500, and that was my entire budget. So it's very small budget. And at that time, I didn't have a lot of experience, so I did not stick to the budget, which, you know, I'm sure a lot of new artists also run into these similar problems. As I said, this production focused on dating and sort of sexual stereotypes for Asian Canadians. It was held at a gym at a recreational center, and it was surprisingly successful. I was not expecting the response that we got. I expected 30 people to show up, and we got closer to 100, and I was able to raise $715, which was then donated to the multicultural health brokers. So at the end of that, I certainly did feel very uplifted, very supported. The audience had positive feedback about they've never been to a performance like this, and they really appreciated it. And, you know, when was the next one? But because of my lack of experience at that time, when I could have used some of the proceeds meant to be donated to cover the expenses, I did not. So I was out of pocket, which is a no-no. So I thought to myself, well, I can't possibly do this again. So I let that go. And then we fast forward, and it's 2022, and the world has changed in ways no one ever really expected. And I had the same feeling, even though we had just sort of come out of the various COVID lockdowns and we're just getting, quote, back to normal. In 2022, I had the same feeling of, I have to do something. There's more to talk about. There's more for the AC community that I have to talk about. So I dove back in. But happily for me, by this time, I had gained some experience writing grants and, you know, setting out to do productions. So I got my funding first, and the funders are listed there. Very pleased to have their support and supporting these stories. So that was wonderful. This performance focused on anti-Asian hate crimes during the COVID-19 pandemic. It was held at the Ledcor Theatre, which is in the basement of the Alberta Gallery of Art. It had a very large budget, yay! But it was less successful with fewer guests arriving than expected, which, you know, with all the elements of being post-pandemic and so on, that's fine. And we raised $350 for multicultural health brokers. So in both cases, I would say a success, and very thankful for the community that supported it. But when you look at these, that has been my experience with these two productions. Forward, please. Okay, so this is just kind of example of, well, it's not, this is the artist lineup for the 2017. So if we see there's the multidisciplinary lineup, there's the Pan-Asian lineup, there's some collaborative pieces there. And the background music, or the music used for pieces in both these productions, I do try to use Asian Canadian musicians. In the 2022, I used one Asian American artist, but otherwise I do try to maintain that as well. Next one, please. And this is the 2022. And in this one, again, because we were just out of lockdowns, really, this one utilized a number of videos as well. So I didn't indicate the difference, but some of them involved speakers on video versus a performance. Okay, and next, please. Okay, so I have a couple of selections from each production that I wanted to share. So this one is from 2017, The Confidence Catwalk. So in this one, it was an idea I had that I thought would be like, okay, we'll do it, but you know, it won't be extremely successful. And what this is from the feedback that I got from the community, we collected men on dating apps, Asian men on dating apps, and the messages, the negative messages they received, and the negative stereotypes that they ran into while trying to use dating apps. And this is for both hetero and queer dating apps. The results were very similar in this negative way, which is really too bad. So what these gentlemen are holding are the negative answers, not that these gentlemen received, but that the community received and gave to the survey forms. So for example, what this guy is holding, it says, "You're attractive enough for an Asian guy." So, you know, very hurtful, but something that these men using dating apps run into frequently in North America, based on the resources that we saw. So the gentlemen you see in the pictures are just people I know are often partners of the other artists that were recruited and didn't really know what they're getting into. But the point was, this is the confidence catwalk. So I wanted these models to dress how they would to feel confident. So you can see there's also some diversity in how they feel confident when they dress. And what they would do is they would walk the catwalk and reveal the message. And then I told them to react in some way, you know, to how that made them feel. So, and I was reading on a microphone as they did it. So I was standing next to them and I said, you know, you can react to me as if I'm the one telling you. So as you'll see, they would tear up the message, they'd throw it, they, you know, all this stuff, and ultimately would leave being very confident. And I think you'll see from the video, and these men are not artists either. So they did a very good job. And it ended up being a really heartwarming experience that I was not expecting. And it's one of my favorite parts of the 2017 production. So if we don't mind, Kevin, if you can click the link at the bottom and share the YouTube. And you might have to share the other tab too, I'm not sure. We're not seeing anything yet, just in case you did.
I'm just going to say that he'll have to go out and bring up the video separately and then reshare it.
Oh, here it is.
There you go.
Okay. Can we? Yeah, thank you.
Next we have Michael. Michael is a born-and-raised urbanite who is both a lover and a fighter. A lover of food and a fighter in the weight room. Well, Michael, good thing you've been hitting that weight room because women want men tall. Not always muscular, but, you know, with a good body to protect her. Asian men can't deliver this. Hedgeman is a civil engineer who enjoys sour foods, the predator, and hanging out with friends. Hey, Hedgeman, I'm glad you like a sour taste in your mouth because, I don't date terrorists. He is known for doing great movie impressions about half the time, and he's got a sense of humor as fresh as his fashion sense. Hey Eugene, it's good you have a sense of humor, and you're attractive enough for an Asian guy. director who has performed and collaborated across the globe. Wow, Sammy, it sounds like you're very accomplished, but I'm a no rice, no spice kind of guy. Another round of applause for our male model minorities.
Great, thank you. That's all, thanks. Yeah, so as you can see, just sort of an unexpected, heartwarming segment that does discuss pretty serious issues. So that's a good example of the pieces we like to do for Model Minority. Can we move forward, please? So this is 2022, not 2023. This is the 2022 production. So this is an example of how we use the multimedia to try to convey the messages and the tones of the pieces. So this is the Edmonton Chinese Freemason Society Tai Chi group. And this is concerning the feeling from COVID-19 where, you know, a lot of elders from all communities passed away, in addition to many others as well. But during this time, there was some very shocking statistics that came out in Canada. For example, in Vancouver, the rate of anti-Asian hate crimes increased 717%, making Vancouver the hate crime capital of North America, which is extremely shocking and should be shocking for Canadians, as we often pride ourselves in being very tolerant and multicultural people. So taking this topic, as well as the feeling of loss during this time, and I should say the target of hate crimes were frequently senior citizens as well. So having the Tai Chi group here doing Tai Chi, which is something we often see Asian seniors doing in public spaces, and then the pictures in behind have Stop Asian Hate and having the people advocating against the hate crimes. And then also you can see in the other picture, there's a drawing of a lady, and the drawings are done by Song Kyung-ga, a local artist who we'll see later actually. And she was just drawing, but I wanted to take the portraits to represent, you know, this feeling of loss. And then ultimately we were soothed and nourished by the Tai Chi presentation as well. So that's another example that I wanted to share. We can move forward. So here's another piece also from 2022. So this is Maya Pillay, a local dancer. So I had an interesting experience with her in terms of themes we'll discuss later. But for example, Maya is a very accomplished dancer and is in part of a few groups. She does lots of similar work. But when I came to her saying, would you do a piece for this? She was really shocked, and she goes, well, I'm not a professional. I'm not an artist. You know, how can I do it? So I encouraged her, you know, and presented the themes of the model minority, where we take the feeling or the message and convey it into a piece so that the underlying emotional message can be conveyed to the audience. And she took that and she did this very wonderful piece, which we can see on YouTube. If you want to go ahead, Kevin. That's the last YouTube after this, sorry. But Maya's piece came after a video from a local healthcare professional who was talking about the experience of Asian Canadian healthcare workers during COVID-19 as well. As we know, healthcare has a lot of AC employees, and what were their experiences during COVID? So hers came after this, The messages in this one were projected on the wall, and you can't see it in the video, so I've stuck them up on the side of the video. So sometimes it'll block Maya, so I apologize, but then you can see what was going on. So please go ahead, Kevin. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. You can close. Yeah. So I should have mentioned, actually, Maya was a healthcare student at the time, and I assume now has graduated. So I think she is an artist and that she did a very good job. And, you know, when we can give young people an opportunity like this, you can get some very surprising and wonderful pieces. Okay, next slide, please. So first of all, this is Song, who did the illustrations for the Elders piece, and she's also in a local Korean drumming group called Ko-Rock. These are some points that are open for discussion now, if you like, and you're, again, welcome to put your question or points into the chat. But these are kind of the things that I come across or engage in when I create a model minority production. And these are based on my opinions and experience and not, you know, scholarly research or anything. So community and professional arts. So, if you're like Maya in the last piece, or even myself, where is the line between being a community artist or a professional artist? And, it is vague and it would be different for different people. But a lot of my time, particularly for this second production, was convincing people that I saw as artists that they are artists and that their piece will fit and that it's important, and that I came to them because I want them in the production. When it comes to community, meaning AC community, there's also this issue of the social activism and the politics, and do they want to be at an event which is political? And, it's a very valid concern. That's something I ran into with the Freemasons Tai Chi Society. And, I reassured them about what was being discussed and what would be the nature of the production, because, they didn't want to put their members into a situation that they weren't expecting. But ultimately, we built a good partnership, and they joined us. And also, in these productions, I do engage professional artists as well. And in that case, I, suffer a little bit of imposter syndrome, and I have to remind myself that, they're professionals and so am I. And to communicate with them and engage with them, you have to be confident and clear and keep that in mind, and don't apologize. Don't say, oh, I'm just making a little production and I hope that you can be a part of it and so on. Be confident so that they feel confident and that they're part of something worthwhile, because obviously I believe in it and the audience believes in it. So, we want them to be there too. Kind of a side example about this idea of being political or being, too divisive. In the 2017 production, as I mentioned, it was a different time, and what we decide is, too radical to talk about is a little bit different between then and now. But in 2017, as I said, I was part of the local taiko group, and I struck out on my own to do that production. It was not the group's production. And I said, I would like there to be drumming because that's what I do. And I didn't own my own drums at the time. And it was a very large discussion for them about whether they would lend me the drums and the drummers to be included, because they thought this kind of discussion was, really political and inappropriate for the group to be a part of. And, that wasn't wrong, because if a group has a set mission and vision, you do have to stick with that. And some of these things can be a little bit sticky. Ultimately, I did get the drums and the drummers, but they said they don't want their name associated with it at all. So I couldn't credit them. I couldn't put them on the poster. I couldn't tag them on social media. So that just goes to show. And that experience did have a big influence on me forming my own company. And as I said, now I'm a part of both, and I feel very comfortable with that, and everyone's happy. So, we can find balance. So that's good. Another topic here is cultural art on stage. So this is, again, informed by my experiences here in Edmonton. It might be different in other places, but, when we think of cultural art, and we'll talk about Asian cultural art, so Tai Chi, dance, drumming, lion dance, these things that we see them usually at an associated festival, and we go, yay, I'm so excited to see these. I love this kind of piece. But, it's usually a festival that you attend for free. And is it art, or is it, just a tradition? It's a cultural tradition. I personally believe cultural art should be presented on stage in the same fashion that, quote, fine art or Western art is. So ballet, opera, orchestra. To me, it's all the same, but often what we think of as, we'll say perhaps POC cultural art is not presented in the same way, and people perhaps might be hesitant to pay the same ticket prices for both, because there's a perception, particularly of Asian cultural items, is that it's cheap or it's affordable. So that's another topic for discussion, and something that I like to uplift is cultural art as art and on stage. Something that also can happen in this is that we run into the perpetual foreigner stereotype, which is if you have, for example, an Asian community in Canada that has been there for hundreds of years, someone like myself who is a Yonsei or a fourth generation Asian Canadian, but always being associated with the country of origin, like implying as a Japanese Canadian, I'm born to, do whatever that is done in Japan. We saw it a lot during COVID as well, where, for example, Chinese Canadians were burdened with negative stereotypes because of COVID coming from China, things like this. So when it's on stage, we have to appreciate in many cases that the group putting on the presentation has probably been in Canada or the community for a long time, that the artists aren't necessarily first generation, or they are not traveling to come present it, that they are Canadians. So that's something to think about as well. And finally, for my productions, I do run into the actual model minority stereotype, which is that Asian communities are perceived as being, better than other immigrant communities, or are, safer or less risky. So I have to identify that the support of my productions and my success, there's a relation to this stereotype, and I have to wonder if other communities, such as an Indigenous community, such as a queer artist or trans artist, Black Canadian artist, would their production be received the same way. And I have to say, after working with my funders on a peer jury, I'm confident to say that the funders are very interested in these stories receiving a platform. But for the artists, why don't we see them? Where is the support? Where is the resources? And if they were to hold a public presentation like this, are there concerns, for safety or other feedback? So as an Asian Canadian community, I advocate using the platform to make those connections and uplift other groups. And also as an artist, when you meet artists from other diverse communities, just as my community artists and I encourage them and uplift them, that you do the same for the others as well. So that is my spiel, and I don't see anything in the chat. But these themes I've just discussed, that goes through my head when I create the model minority productions and work in these spaces. So that's something that perhaps you can think about if you want to do the same. And if you would like to reach out to me, next slide, Kevin. If you would like to reach out to me to discuss this further, or to see what I have going on, or you want to work together, here's my information, Rabbits 3 Cultural Connections. And a big thanks to the John Humphrey Centre as well, and big thanks to Hitomi and Kevin. And I will stop there, and we can see if there's questions or anything folks want to say.
Well, individuals are thinking about different things. I have a couple of questions for Carly, and maybe it'll spur some other questions. One of the questions I have is around the fact that multiculturalism as a policy in Canada was instituted in the 80s by the Liberal government. And do you see multiculturalism has often been termed as the song and dance bill, because most of the funding has often gone to cultural experiences and not really a lot into promoting different ethnicities and different ways of practices. And so one of the comments that I heard you indicate was the distinction between professionalism and community practices. And I'm just wondering what we can do as Canadians to try to advance minority practices or visible, some of these practices that you've you've illustrated in your presentation, how you could, how we can, as a country, work on trying to promote professionalism in these areas that you've already spoken about.
As I refer to, I think valuing cultural arts and artists at the same level as Western arts and artists. So, your, I don't know how to explain, your Western music, your typical bands and so on, uplifting cultural practitioners in the same way and expect them on the same stages and pay the same ticket prices means that it could be seen as a viable line of work or growth or creativity, so that cultural arts aren't seen as antiquated or just traditional or just for festivals or whatever. That people, these arts and traditions can be preserved by being continuously utilized for our contemporary times and into the future. And it could provide young artists who are coming up in them a feeling that it can be a legitimate practice or a line of work. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I have another question with respect to the distinctions between your 2017 and your 2022 presentations, because, whoever thought that COVID would be one of those things that we would have to deal with as a community, much less as an arts community, because a lot of arts community members really suffered during that period of time. And so I'm just wondering what kinds of conversations you had with audiences from that were different between the 2017 and the 2022 performances.
Well, so in 2017, again, the topic was sort of dating, and the stereotypes AC community could run into around dating. So while that's a serious topic and should be discussed, it was not as serious as anti-Asian hate crimes during COVID. So the tone was decidedly different. The tone for the first one, there was playfulness, like for the confidence catwalk. We had lion dance at that one that uplifted us and so on. In 2022, what I wanted to address, like everyone knew, we had just been through COVID. People knew about the anti-Asian hate, but it was to try to provide a sense of support and community, so that even though, we sat through that audience together and kind of relive some of those themes, that there was a sense of supportiveness and some sense of healing, perhaps. So that's what I tried to convey in the second one. So it wasn't like providing information because we knew, but it was also a chance for those stories, like the healthcare workers and so on, for those stories to get their voice on the stage, because that's what's important to me. When I have something, a topic that is difficult for me, I want to express it for everyone. And in both cases, the artists responded very positively for the opportunity to get to do pieces like this. And the audience was receptive and grateful as well. So it's not like we broke any, new ground talking about COVID, but for our little population there, I hope that we left feeling, a little bit lighter.
I see a question in the chat, comments. When I worked at the Art Gallery of Alberta leading school programs, I noticed desire on the teacher's behalf to talk about an artist's cultural heritage rather than the art they were producing, which I think a lot of individuals have had that same issue. As guides, we saw all art in the gallery as being produced by artists. Their heritage was secondary to the art being produced. How would you like people to discuss artists whose cultural heritage is not a part of their art?
Yeah, it's interesting this is brought up, because as I was building this presentation, I actually thought about this a lot. I wasn't quite sure how to loop it in. So when we watched Maya, for example, she's doing modern dance, and in both productions there were it wasn't all traditional arts. There was modern dance, there was belly dance, there was mixed digital medias and so on. So yes, it would be wrong to say that if you are a POC, you must do the art of your people. that you can't go beyond that. And that's not the case at all. The model minority productions have the twofold purpose of presenting cultural arts, but also artists who have a thought about the topics. So when the artists do modern dance, they're thinking about the topic, about the stereotypes or whatever it is, and that's what they express through their art. So when it comes to just modern dance, I don't have an opinion because this is not my area. But when it comes to AC artists, doing modern dance with the topic being anti-Asian hate, yes, I'm interested in that, and I want to see that being presented. So, it's not for us to police what artists are going to do. I want to uplift the messages and the AC artists.
So do you think that there's issues with certain expectations going in that, that there's going to be certain types of performances by certain types of artists? I mean, we think of the Suzuki method that was developed for violin, and that we see mainly Asians dealing specifically with the violin because of the Suzuki method. So do you think that there's ways to break those barriers, just having more of the visible artists working in different areas, or what do you think we can do with that?
I mean, that's a really big discussion that I know folks have already been having for a long time. Just in my little niche corner of the arts world here, to me, the biggest point is that we're all trained to, and we have to think outside the box and beyond our biases, that Western art is the only fine art, and that's not the case. And therefore, who is it available to, and where is cultural art fitted in? And we've discussed this already, but it's just basically checking in and not having the preconceived expectations of what should be on stage, or if it's on stage, what it's going to be like. Because art, as we know, performance changes over time, it modernizes, it reflects back on roots. So, it's a wonderful journey to be on, to see how artists will take the traditions and shape it for what they want to express. So, yeah.
So Edmonton is supposedly the third most diverse city in Canada. And this presentation that you did with both of the model minority projects were actually done here in Edmonton, which has a very vibrant arts community and very progressive and very experimental. I'm just wondering what your thoughts would be around presenting this same project, say, in Toronto or Lethbridge or Newfoundland. Do you think that there would be a different impact?
Well, having only lived in Edmonton, I can't really say, but I do know that Edmonton is a unique and special community. It's something we see for the EJCA and the JC community based on our location and general size. And then, as you said, the wonderful diversity that we have here. It is a unique place. And business-wise, if I were to be in Vancouver or Toronto, it would be much more competitive. So I don't know, if I would have even been accepted. The premise of collaborative, multidisciplinary, uplifting, difficult topics in an accessible way so that people leave feeling connected, I like to think that could be transferred anywhere and to any community and to any group. And, if one day in my future that leads me to these other places to try to share this same practice, the same method, all the better. That'd be wonderful.
So where do you see taking this work? What do you plan on doing in the future with this?
It's hard. I don't have concrete plans. I am hoping for a 2024 model minority. We'll see. I now wait for funding before I plan things, so we'll see. But there's so many topics we could be focused on in the future. I hope to be focused on the topic of AC and mental health in the community, the emotional burden of these microaggressions and stereotypes and so on. I find for the productions, it's better to narrow in on a pretty clear topic versus being general. That helps to really focus the artist and to convey things. So in that regard, there's a lot of topics we could focus on, and ultimately maybe we can focus on only happy things too. Maybe one day.
I see another question in our chat. It's that I've heard from Asian Canadian actors the difficulty in obtaining parts due to racial stereotyping. How do we address this issue in the arts?
Kevin, we don't have time for this. We need a whole other session. I can't even get started on how ACs and Asian Americans are portrayed in media, in North American TV and programming. To me, it's that perpetual foreigner stereotype that if you are a Chinese Canadian, you're always going to be Chinese. You will like these things. You will act like this. You'll be good at this and bad at this. It's terrible. And you see it. You see roles on TV and media being, even though they probably didn't set out this way, being biased towards these stereotypes when it comes to Asian roles or just roles. And no, a person of Asian ethnicity can't get that role because blah. The only thing I will say to this is my biggest pet peeve, as a little niggling issue, that when there's an actor on a show, like mainstream shows, this one that I'm thinking of was the show Bones, which is a little bit older now, but is a very popular show. When there's a POC actor, the music changes for them. And you see this with Asian characters a lot, is that when the Asian character is in the screen, suddenly there's like, a flute, and it's like a Japanese flute. This character was Middle Eastern, and there was like the lonely like horn. I don't know what the instrument is, but it's a wind instrument from the Middle East. But the characters are not from those places. It's just, anyways, I can't. Kevin, you got me started now, but there's bias, and big media companies need to do better. That's all I'll say.
Well, Carly, I think, we have another comment here. Do you have any plans to work with health services HR departments to introduce the incredible dance piece as a departure point for opening discussions of how HR departments can support and address AC's working experiences? That's a lovely question. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, what a wonderful idea. Dance pieces departure point. Yeah. That is an excellent idea I had not thought of. That kind of cross community, so not just in arts, but in employment and in big groups like health services, Alberta Health, and so on. It'd be wonderful. I'm going to log that suggestion away for sure. Thank you.
Well, I'm just going to mention here that we've got another member of the Japanese community that actually works with one of our work safety groups, is the executive director, and I'm not going to name him just for anonymity's sake, but he deals with theater, and he takes theater into schools and different places, different workplaces, in order to use theater as his juncture point for addressing issues of safety and different things. So I think this is a great idea from the standpoint of being able to provide information in a very different way to communities. So Carly, I want to thank you for your time, your presentation. I want to thank our assistants in the background, Shade and Ayushi and Kevin, for helping with technical pieces, as well as Jessica and Ed, who helped us get on the platform. We want to thank once again the John Humphrey Centre for Peace and Human Rights for being just part allowing us to share our stories, and to Renee for just bringing all of us together in order to have these conversations. And we hope that all of you will go to our next session at 2:00, where we'll be discussing more of the redress issues and some of these other issues around the Japanese community. Thank you all as an audience, and we appreciate your time and amazing questions.
Thank you, everyone. Great. Thank you so much.
That was awesome, Carly.
Thank you. Are they still here?
People are slowly wandering out, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, everyone, so much.
Nice.
And thank you, Hitomi. Those are wonderful questions.
No problem. Having worked in the arts community quite a bit, I'm very familiar with a lot of the issues that you're bringing up, and huge supporter of trying to get information out to communities in different ways. Talking heads are terrible, and it's nice to be able to have conversations with individuals in different ways where we can actually present fun information in ways that still get the message across.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see what 2024, what a version of that, of your presentation will look like and feel like for audiences in 2024, because I think it'll be very different than even 2022. Yeah,
it's so interesting, you know, the time that we're set in, what the impact will be. So yeah, I hope. We'll see. If not, 2025 is fine too.
Well, yeah, I just think that each time you present this, it'll be a different feel, and you may be addressing different issues, which in itself I think is kind of neat to be able to address ongoing issues, but present similar kinds of information. I think that, as Kevin was also discussing, yes, Paul, you will need to.
Paul was out. There's only an hour, Paul. Just kidding.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to have some of these other discussions that were brought up in the chat. So I do need to move on to the next panel. And thank you so much, Carly. We'll see you later today.
Yeah, this evening. See you then. And thank you, Kevin. See you later.
Kevin.
Yeah, thank you. Great presentation. We'll see you later.
Okay, bye-bye.